This is the story of the Curse of King Leoric and the quest's original appearance in Diablo 1. After initially returning to the decimated town of Tristram and witnessing the horrors that befell the townspeople underneath the once holy site of the cathedral, we emerge from the monastery's second level in need of respite, and it's then that we're waved down by Ogden, the tavern owner, who finally reveals the fate of our father, the once beloved King Leoric, and our brother Prince Albrecht. Two names no man has dared to utter in our presence until now.
The village needs your help, good master. Some months ago, King Leoric's son, Prince Albrecht, was kidnapped. The king went into a rage and scoured the village for his missing child. With each passing day, Leoric seemed to slip deeper into madness. He sought to blame innocent townsfolk for the boy's disappearance and had them brutally executed. Less than half of us survived his insanity. The king's knights and priests tried to placate him, but he turned against them and, sadly, they were forced to kill him. With his dying breath, the king called down a terrible curse upon his former followers. He vowed that they would serve him in darkness forever. This is where things take an even darker twist than I thought possible. Our former king has risen from his eternal sleep and now commands a legion of undead minions within the labyrinth. His body was buried in a tomb 3 levels beneath the cathedral. Please, good master, put his soul at ease by destroying his now cursed form.
What foul black magic is this? The Leoric we knew was a benevolent ruler beloved by his people. None of this makes sense. We swear we shall find our younger brother and make a beeline to the town's aging scholar, Deckard Cain, standing by his familiar well, hoping he can shed light on what madness took our once pious father and led to the tragedy that befell our family and the entire town of Tristram.
Ah, the story of our king, is it? The tragic fall of Leoric was a harsh blow to this land. The people always loved the king, and now they live in mortal fear of him. The question that I keep asking myself is how he could have fallen so far from the light, as Leoric had always been the holiest of men. Only the vilest powers of hell could so utterly destroy a man from within.
I noticed that neither Ogden nor Cain called Leoric our father. Whatever demonic influence that holds him must be great if they dare not utter our relation in fear of evoking a wretched curse. Or worse, maybe dare relive a memory of a better time. We then head next to the blacksmith Griswold, by his forge, and he shares.
I made many of the weapons and most of the armour that King Leoric used to outfit his knights. I even crafted a huge 2-handed sword of the finest mithril for him, as well as a field crown to match. I still can't believe how he died. But it must have been some sinister force that drove him insane!
A mithril 2-handed sword, which is half the weight of steel and a fine weapon. But a crown to battle? Whatever Leoric's foe, it sounds like he wanted to face it in the light and on the battlefield. Far from the light and the ears of others, we search out Farnham, now colloquially known as the town drunk, as he's plopped by his favourite rock, Farnham being a once decent warrior and loyal subject to the crown. We tepidly broach the subject of the Skeleton King, and Farnham scoffs.
I don't care about that. Listen, no skeleton is gonna be my king. Leoric is king. King! So you hear me? Hail to the king!
We almost envy Farnham's denial of what's transpired and even his rum-soaked stupor. However, we press on and see Pepin the healer outside his hut, who expounds.
The loss of his son was too much for King Leoric. I did what I could to ease his madness, but in the end, it overcame him. A black curse has hung over this kingdom from that day forward. But perhaps, if you were to free his spirit from his earthly prison, the curse would be lifted.
Of all the people to deal with this, why me? They won't even look us in the eye, let alone acknowledge our shared heritage. Maybe they have good reason to be afraid, and I'm the only ignorant fool left in this town. We then turn to Gillian the barmaid out front of her grandma's hut, and she says,
I don't like to think about how the king died. I like to remember him for the kind and just ruler that he was. His death was so sad and seemed very wrong somehow.
Thankful for the true memory of our father to be recalled just once more before we face down the horrors inside the crypt. On our way out of town, we seek out the wisdom of children as Wirt, the peg-legged boy, eyes us from his tree and states flatly,
Look, I am running a business here. I don't sell information, and I don't care about some king that's been dead longer than I've been alive. If you need something to use against this king of the undead, then I can help you out.
We pause for a moment, shocked at the title, King of the Undead, the King of Khandaras. We momentarily regain our composure and cast our eye to the shack on the outskirts of town. Perhaps Adria the witch and her dark arts are familiar with our father's curse, to which she greets us in front of the shack and says,
The dead who walk among the living follow the cursed king. He holds the power to raise yet more warriors for an ever-growing army of the undead. If you do not stop his reign, he will surely march across this land and slay all who still live here.
So, this unholy skeleton king, Leoric, naught but in name, has the power to raise the undead, granting him subjects in death, standing in stark contrast against what he stood for in life. Grim tidings indeed. This doesn't sound like our father at all, but a curse that we must abolish. We steel our resolve, unsure what to expect as we bury our emotions deep within lest they betray us as we head into the depths of the cathedral once more. Down in level 3, we're met with a score of demons, varying in type from scavengers, undead archers with their flaming arrows, the ever-cowardly fallen, jabbing and shrieking with their spears, and the disappearing hidden, led by a unique called Moondrinker. As we fell his brethren and stalk down Moondrinker once slain, we spy near his corpse an unfamiliar tomb, its entrance guarded by 2 solemn statues representing the fallen Leoric. This is, no doubt, where the bones of our father lay. We apprehensively step inside and hear a voice that says,
The warmth of life has entered my tomb. Prepare yourself, mortal, to serve my master for eternity.
Our greatest fear was that our father was somehow behind the misfortunes of the town. However, that fades. This skeleton king doesn't recognize us as his son at all. All it sees is another potential minion for its ever-growing army of the undead, and this elusive master it speaks of. We know what we have to do, and with a bone-crushing mace in hand, we step further inside the tomb. As we push forward, we rush the archers, only to see their kin are safely hidden behind a grate. Yet deftly, we hear the twang of their bowstrings that rain down arrows upon us from the safety of their nest. Frustrated, we turn to the western door and kick it in looking for an alternate path. Again, we are met with burning dead and a corpse bow. Once fallen, we check the crypt, but it's not Leoric's. However, there is a lever by it that reveals dead switches to open the grate. Backtracking into the main area, we destroy burning skeleton captains. As we head into the main chamber, filled with undead, we spy a tomb, no doubt of the Skeleton King in the middle of the room, and behind it moves forward the largest skeleton we've ever seen, at least twice as big as any man, wielding a mithril sword of unholy heft, as well as a breast of armor and a crown atop its head, raising allies casually as it stalks forward and swings its sword at us as its minions attempt to corner us. We make a dash for the archers first, hacking frantically as we sidestep his army, but are caught in the southeast corner by a sarcophagus. There the king presses his attack, raising minions as we desperately try to fell them. We're only saved by the sheer brute force of his sword as it makes contact with our shield, knocking us back, and we retreat and pick off his minions one by one. When we finally face the Skeleton King, we think it's on our terms, but we're now badly fatigued and out of options as we start to frantically heal but to no avail as we realize he possesses the ability of vampirism and is drawing life with every blow he rains down on us. He does not slow with his cold, calculated swinging of his sword. His minions trickle into the fray and fall again, resurrected by their dark master. And it's clear that our soft, fallible flesh is a weakness the skeleton army does not share. Forced to flee, we hear the Skeleton King gleefully resurrect the undead in our wake, almost mockingly awaiting our return. We make a beeline for town and see Pepin for much needed healing, greedily buying up his potions as this is our only option at this point to weather Leoric's attacks and out-heal his sickening vampirism. We turn to Ogden, who's standing by Pepin, and he says,
I told you, good master. The king was entombed 3 levels below. He's down there, waiting in the putrid darkness for his chance to destroy this land.
We have no doubt in our minds that Ogden's right. If we do not fell Leoric, Tristram will be overrun in a matter of days. With refreshed weaponry, potions, we head back down to the tomb to face the Skeleton King, Leoric, once more. Once inside the tomb, Leoric refuses to relent for even a second, barreling down on us with his newly raised minions, and although we are well stocked, he still has surprises in store. We realize his vampirism not only drains life, but also magicka as well. There is no portaling out of here, and we're forced once again to face him on his terms in a war of attrition. As he swings down his massive mithril sword, it bites into our shield, and his skeleton minions rise over and over to aid him in his attack. Becoming weary from his assault once again, our attention flickers and we see his unrelenting vampirism will sap us of our strength if we're not vigilant. Thirstily gulping down Pepin's potions between frantic swings of our mace, we finally beat down the Skeleton King's offense with our own bashing of our mace, and we say, without even thinking,
Rest well, Leoric. I'll find your son.
Strange. Even forced to face our own father as the ghoulish visage of his former self, we don't even allow our emotions to get the better of us for a second, as we sense we are being watched by an even more malevolent force, delighting in our macabre mission, hoping that we will break. After announcing we will find Ulbricht, we search Leoric's tomb further, freeing bodies crucified that were littered about and finding his own guarded treasure in a northern room. With a few unique items under our belt, we move to leave the tomb, but then we realize we've got to check Leoric himself. On his skeletal corpse, we see what Griswold had spoken of, his glorious field crown. Our birthright by all accounts, but more so a symbol of the righteous man Leoric once was. With the crown in hand, we head back to town and see Ogden once more, who says,
The curse of our king is past, but I fear that it was only part of a greater evil at work. However, we may yet be saved from the darkness that consumes our land, for your victory is a good omen. May light guide you on your way, good master.
We acknowledge Ogden's words and pray we have freed our father Leoric once and for all from his eternal misery and damnation. Let the light be merciful, as our family and the town of Tristram has suffered enough. Seeing Cain quickly, we toss him the crown, and he tells us that indeed it would grant us the boon of 5 points of lifesteal on our own enemies. Although we wouldn't wear the crown in the best of times, let alone when such misery has befallen the land, as it seems ostentatious, we do, however, place the field crown on our head as a sign that we will pick up where our good father Leoric left off before he had succumbed to evil, and that we too shall battle the greater darkness Ogden spoke of. Proud to be Aidan, son of Leoric and Prince of Condoros,